welcome to the first season of the Is the Planet Doomed podcast. This is a project produced by the students of a course with the same name in the Department of Geography at Colgate University. By unpacking some of the world's most pressing and complex problems, the episodes in this podcast help answer the question, well, are we doomed? In this episode, Jacob Harris shows why overpopulation is not to blame for the woes of South Africa's poor.
Ottawa is an 18-year-old kid living in Mandela Park, one of Cape Town's poorest neighborhoods. Like most residents of Mandela Park, Ottawa is poor, black, and forgotten.
We live in a polluted community, living in shacks that are leaking, shacks that have no electricity. And then if you look across, you see nice houses, people that are rich, people that are living their life, people that are enjoying life while we are suffering.
Ottawa's parents were killed when he was a mere 10 years old, forcing him to join a gang for protection. Somehow, he made it out of the gang life, and now he's going to be the first person in his family to graduate from high school. This makes him an inspiration for other kids in the slum. Sadly, Ottawa's story is much more heartwarming than those of most of slum dwellers, who again are overwhelmingly poor and black.
It's not good to stay here really, because our children don't have that really what other children have in the houses. Our children is getting sick in these places from the trains that's flowing over. Our toilets is blocked.
Monique Clark knows firsthand the problems associated with living in slums. She lives in a one-room shack with her husband and their 5 children. It's hard to imagine what it's like to sleep in the same bedroom as 6 other family members. But the worst part of the slums are the health effects of living in a place without quality health care, or even sewage lines for that matter. The stories of Ottawa and Monique Clark are very disheartening. They have and continue to overcome obstacles in their daily lives that come from their poverty. Because of this, poverty is one of the most critical issues in modern-day South Africa. It affects millions of citizens, the majority of which are black. The hardships in their lives seem to have more to do with their race than with their poverty. This can be traced back to apartheid. Apartheid was a period in South African history that was similar to the Jim Crow era in the United States. However, South Africa has not recovered from apartheid nearly as well as the United States has recuperated from the Jim Crow era. To this day, South Africa's deep poverty and inequality are structured along racial lines. Separate and unequal sadly still rules the day. Take education. Education should be the one thing that helps level the playing field between whites and blacks. But in South Africa, the educational system is actually making racial injustice even worse. Since apartheid ended in 1994, blacks have had less access to quality education than whites. The gap between the races is just getting deeper and deeper.
If there is no improvement, then I believe South Africa is sitting on a time bomb. You can't expect to produce 500,000 South Africans annually who are uneducated, who can't find themselves meaningful employment, and expect there to be no explosion.
Ken Ball is the headmaster of a newly integrated private school called South African College Schools. Ball recognizes the opportunities children gain from a quality education. That's why he's worked to integrate his school. Most of his students are white, well-off children. Black students are still a tiny minority in his private school. Meanwhile, the vast majority of black South Africans must make do with public schools.
The teachers are not appropriately trained. Most of the teachers come from the previous system where black people were not exposed nor trained appropriately to teach those levels.
That was Mmanse Diale, professor at the University of Pretoria. She saw the problems of apartheid firsthand as a citizen of South Africa. She still notices the lingering differences in the quality of education to this day. White South Africans, on top of having more access to private education, live in closer proximity to high-quality public schools than blacks. The public education blacks do get is nowhere near the quality of white public schools. The buildings are failing and so are the teachers. These teachers are forced to teach kids of various ages in overcrowded classrooms that sometimes lack desks and even blackboards. Considering all these challenges, Ottawa's journey is all the more remarkable. He overcame these obstacles and has succeeded. He's a sign of possibility and hope, but similar stories to his continue to be rare among Black South Africans.
I've been working hard, giving everything in my power, everything in my heart.
Ottawa's home life was very challenging because of the death of his parents, and a failing home life is often tied to a failing education, which drives even more people into poverty. And this has a ripple effect on the economy as a whole. The number of high-skilled workers in South Africa has decreased over the years, causing the country's economic progress to stall. This is one of the main reasons why educational inequalities must be solved in South Africa. With better education for blacks comes more economic prosperity for the country as a whole. Currently, Black South Africans receive engineering degrees 4 times less often than their counterparts in the United States. That number is reflective of the scarcity of quality education for blacks. It also suggests that improvement can be made by helping blacks move out of slums, since 46% of blacks are impoverished in South Africa and only 22% in the United States. Too bad for the legacies of apartheid. Upon being elected in the famous 1994 democratic election that ended apartheid, Nelson Mandela said,
"We have triumphed in the effort to implant hope in the breasts of the millions of our people. We enter into a covenant that we shall build a society in which all South Africans, both black and white, will be able to walk toward without any fear in their hearts, assured of their inalienable right to human dignity, a rainbow nation at peace with itself and the world."
South Africa has yet to build the society that Nelson Mandela dreamt of. The process continues. Improving education and housing for blacks would go a long way in creating a more equal and prosperous country for all.
It's up to us now to make a change, to stand as a unity. White and black, it doesn't matter. Stand together. I just want to say thank you to the obstacles that came in my way, because actually without them, I couldn't have become this strong.
Ottawa shows the tremendous hope and potential of the new South Africa. He has succeeded despite the many obstacles in his life, and they made him who he is. He's a role model and inspiration not only for South Africa, but for all of us. From Colgate University, I'm Jacob Harris.